I may be stuck at the airport, but the Badgers are moving forward.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm Ryan Herrings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers commit $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this community. As I said earlier, I'm in the airport stuck like a lot of people out there, but the Badgers are moving forward. Today's episode, we are talking about what's real, what's not, what's a trend, what's a blip, plus some of your questions and comments. Let's start here. What's real? What's real with this good performance against Oregon and this step up against this big win against Washington? What is actually real here? I think the defense. You start there. Because not all of this is real. There are still a lot of places for this team to improve, which we're going to get into. A lot of questions that I still have here. But I think the defense in general is real. I think that is something that is better. I think that's something that over the course of a couple games now has been getting consistent pressure. You're seeing Cooper Catalano and Mason Posa. We're talking about what's real. Those two inside linebackers are real, both of them. Mason Posa, disruptive, long, instinctual. If you were just to put film of Mason Posa up for a real ball knower, somebody who watches a lot of football, you were to put that film up and say, what year is he? What year is Mason Posa? Most people are like, that dude looks like a redshirt junior. I mean, he's not. He's a freshman in name only. Mason Posa is a true freshman in name only. And then Cooper Catalano is absolutely legit, instinctive, violent, fundamentally sound, great technique, incredible tackler. Those two form not just individually a great duo, but they complement each other really, really well. I think both of those guys are real. The secondary, speaking about the defense, the secondary's gotten better. We got to acknowledge it. You know, there were multiple times in both the Oregon game and the Washington game where those quarterbacks rolled out. They tried to buy time because they're very talented at doing that, and they couldn't find anything deep. They were unable to find a deep crosser, a deep drag, a deep comeback, the deep post. That stuff that we saw against Maryland, you remember that, right? I was there. I was in the stands. I remember it like a nightmare. The stuff where Maryland receivers were just running behind their safety, splitting two deep zones, unexcusable missed assignments, MAs, as Emilio Agard would say when he was on the show. That didn't happen against Oregon. It didn't happen against Washington. You know, those are veteran, talented quarterbacks with pretty good receiving groups. I mean, really talented receiving groups and weapons that couldn't exploit this team deep. So the secondary's gotten better. Those linebackers are legit. We got to talk about Mason Reiger. I have never seen a guy be so close to like 7 different sacks on the season. Mason Reiger, Pro Football, I think it was Pro Football Focus. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but one of the stats analytics groups put out a tweet. Mason Reiger led the nation in pressures last week. I think it was like 11. Gosh, that seems high. Maybe it wasn't that much, but Mason Reiger led the nation in pressures last week. He's a dominant force on the edge that's consistent, that brings it every single play. So he's real. Ben Barton's real. Those inside linebackers are real. Cheeks is playing well. Darrell Peterson's playing well. Guys, we have a defense. The defense is real. Would I like a little bit more still from the secondary at times? Yes. Do I want Austin Brown to still occasionally wrap up a little bit more? Yes. But Matt Young played really well. That deep pass that he cut off towards the end of the game, those plays weren't being made in weeks 1, 2, or 3. So give Coach Cooper credit. Give Coach Haynes credit. Give Coach Tressel credit. Give Coach Mitchell credit. This defense is humming. Give Coach Whitlow credit. This defensive line is humming. And you saw, again, a 4th down stop by this defense. They're stout. They bow up. It's a really good defense that gave up essentially 3 points. Because you're not going to hold that touchdown against them, right? Where Washington was gift wrapped the ball at the 1 yard line. This defense gave up essentially 3 points to what I think is probably going to be eventually an NFL quarterback, an NFL receiver. Now they had some guys banged up. Welcome to our world. Listen. I'm not going to take, as a Wisconsin fan, I'm not going to take any pity on teams having players banged up. I'm sorry. That's been our story for years. And do I want people hurt? Absolutely not. But this is football. I'm sorry you had people banged up. Welcome to our world. That is literally us. So what is real on this team? The defense, guys. The defense is real. Is it elite? I don't think so, because I still think, given good weather, given a really good offensive line, I think good passing teams are still going to exploit us a little bit. But it's a good defense. That's real. What else is real? I think Gideon Atuka is real. I don't think he's a mirage. I don't think he's an oasis in the desert that you wander over to and you're like, oh, there's nothing here. I thought Gideon Atuka was established in this spot. No, I think he's real. I think the physical tools that he has, the way he runs, the way he has a little shiftiness to him that's subtle. He avoids contact really well. He doesn't take a ton of square on hits. And because of his low center of gravity and the way he runs with his pads, he really falls forward. One of the most valuable things, Emmitt Smith is one of the greatest running backs of all time, not because he was super flashy. It was because he was durable. It was because he was consistent. And it was because he always fell forward. Emmitt Smith always gained 2 yards, 3 yards, right? Emmitt Smith had very few 0-yard gains. That's Gideon Atuka is not Emmitt Smith. Sorry, really clear. Don't mistake it. But he has that style where he's always going to fall forward, where he runs behind pads, where he feels like, we don't know yet, but it feels like he has the makings of a durable, consistent runner. He's got to prove over the long haul before we put that moniker on him, but I think he's real, guys. I think Gideon Atuka is real. What else is real? I think Coach Fickell, and I did a show like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, all right, you got the vote of confidence. Now you got to prove it. Now you got to coach a little more aggressively. You got to coach up the tempo, up the aggression, up the creativity. Going for it on a 4th down early, even if I didn't agree with it, the fake punt, that was a huge moment. That's a huge gamble in a game that was close to pull out the fake punt that worked. Yeah, I think he's pulling the right buttons right now. He's coaching a little more aggressively. I think he's sensing the urgency a little bit. I think he's also playing into the youthfulness of the team. He's giving them some opportunities to go out there and play fast and make mistakes, but also to take advantage of some opportunities. I think what he's doing right now is kind of real with the aggressiveness. What else is real? I think in offensive line improvement, I think that's real as well. I think you're seeing it start to coalesce. You're seeing it start to gel a little bit, which we talked about early in the year. It should get better. The longer you have Emerson Mandel, who, again, started the season in practice as a guard. He's playing right tackle. We know this. But now he's been able to play it for a while. Colin Coverley wasn't in the starting group. Now he's a starting guard, but he's been able to do it a while. Davis Heinzen's been inserted at center, and he's been able to do it a while. Riley Mahlman has now been at left tackle for a while. And then Joe Brunner's kind of the one constant who hasn't moved. I wonder if the other people look at him and they're like, oh, it must be nice to not move offensive line positions, Joe. Yeah, must be nice, Joe Bruns. But I feel like that journey of the offensive line from, this is not good, guys, to, okay, there's something here. It's not great, but it's decent and it's getting better. I think that is also true. So when you start to look across the scope of this, I think the defense, the linebackers, getting Atuka, coaching aggressiveness, secondary getting better, Mason Reiger. I think all of that is real. I think all of that is real. I think it's sustainable. I think it's good. What isn't real? What is still a question mark? What do they still need to answer? We're going to hit that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show. And as always, a quick second to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at Wayfair. Wayfair is absolutely insane, and the holiday season is here. My wife loves Christmas, and that means it's time to get your home ready. We're already working on it, whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serverware for the holiday get-togethers with family and friends. Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with 70% off sofas to spatulas. Recently, we got a bunch of holiday decor off Wayfair because where else would we get it for Christmas, which again is my wife's favorite holiday, and I couldn't believe how fast it shipped. You get it so quickly. You're going to have it well in time for the holidays to get all your stuff set up. Right now, do not miss out on the early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. All right, let's talk a little bit about maybe what isn't real, right? We hit on these are the things I believe in. These are the things I think are real with this team, this defense, this trend going forward. The passing game is still a massive question. And it's not even a question of if it's real or not because it's non-existent at this point. The passing game is among the worst in college football. It's the worst in the Big Ten. And you just won a game where your punter Sean West led the team in passing yards, which is very Iowa-ish. It's kind of fun to have that step, but you're not going to consistently win any game, despite everything we just said about what's real, the defense and all those pieces. You are not going to win games down the stretch if you're throwing for 24 yards from your punter and nobody else does more than that. You're not going to win those games. That's a massive question with this team, because this could very easily be a one-game blip if improvement isn't made on that front. And can improvement be made? I think so, but you gotta show it, right? Jeff Grimes has to figure this out, and I know he's not working with the deck that he thought he had, but you have to find a way to engineer more than what you saw. And it's not completely fair to him, right? You lose Daniel Neal early in the game, then you have to shift to Hunter Simmons for a bit, then you shift to Carter Smith, who obviously is a freshman. I think he was running the package he was given, but this has to get better. It has to get better with Iowa, Illinois, and Minnesota looming. So what can they do? How are they going to get better? Can they get better? I think they can. I believe Carter Smith can be an okay passer in situations this year. You still have to manage down and distance. You still have to run the ball. You have to set him up in advantageous spots. He's going to have to use his legs. But I do think when you get him out of a crazy weather game and you give him the entire week to practice with the ones, I think you're going to see something from Carter Smith that is okay from the passing game. But here's the other part of it, guys. Here's the other thing that frustrates me. The pass catchers have to do their part. There's too many drops on this team. Even in those moments when Hunter Simmons or Carter Smith or Daniel Neal have delivered passes, people are dropping balls. People aren't fighting for balls. So you have this group of pass catcher or quarterbacks who have been banged up, who've been inconsistent, who haven't thrown well. But then you have Lance Mason, dude, dropping some passes. You got to catch the ball. Big time tight end get, and I like Lance Mason. I really like him. Obviously, he was the guy that came in and took Tanner Koziel's spot. Tanner Koziel is doing really well right now for Houston. Lance has had too many drops this year. He had a couple more in this game, and one of those passes was behind him, but it hit him in the hands. You got to catch the ball. You got to catch the ball for this young group of quarterbacks. It's imperative. I think Lance dropped too. Vinny Anthony on a slant. I don't think that was a very catchable ball, but anything that's in the radius, you guys got to come down with at this point. We've seen other receivers maybe not sell out for catches. You got to catch the ball. Vinny Anthony had a drop across the middle. It's maybe not fair to call it a drop, actually, because he got pummeled by a Washington linebacker that came across. But still, like, if you're the best receiver on a team and you're going to go play in the NFL and your quarterback is struggling, and you got your hands on the ball, you got to lock it up, put it in the safe, take the contact, get up, and pump that crowd up. I'm sorry, like, this is the stretch run with a baby-faced quarterback. You got to make every play you can make if you're a receiver, a tight end. And so far to the season, we haven't seen that. So can they fix those going forward? I would love to see more Eugene Hilton Jr. I'm not sure if we will. I don't hate Chris Brooks out there. Honestly, I think Chris Brooks has pretty good hands. I would love – I'm definitely not selling on Vinny Anthony just because he had a very tough drop. But the receivers have to make plays. By the way, Jackson Aker making that catch on the fourth down punt fake, that's an easy catch, but sometimes those easy catches are easy to fumble. My heart was in my throat on that throw from Sean West. It was just kind of sailing up there. I'm like, just please catch the ball, Jackson Aker, please. Because it would be such a Wisconsin thing at times this year for that not to work, even though it's schemed up perfectly. Nice job, Jackson Aker. Hell yeah. That's a really nice play. What else isn't real? Or what else is a question mark is probably the better way to put this. Special teams is terrifying to me. And I know there was a share of plays, big plays. You had the blocked punt, or blocked field goal from Ben Barton. You had some really nice field position flipping punts from both punters, Bertram's and Sean West. But you can't drop a snap on a punt. That was almost disastrous. You can't get a punt blocked. You missed your first field goal. There is just too much chaotic on special teams. Special teams should not be an adventure, right? Special teams is the part of football where you're like, okay, I can run to my fridge quick. I'm going to get my IPA, maybe pop some popcorn. I'm going to be back for the real parts of this. And obviously I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek. Special teams are a real part of this, but it's too chaotic. There's been multiple times this season opposing teams have schemed up blocks against us, our punt team, our kickoff team, our field goal team. I mean, you dropped a snap again. You got to clean up those type of plays. And I think it was amazing. Special teams rebounded and made some really big plays down the stretch. but they're also the reason Washington scored a touchdown. So I think there's continued questions about the special teams unit in general. I think that is something Luke Fickell and his staff, they got to figure out. And I think the other question going forward is, again, I don't know if Jeff Grimes has a great feel. And I hesitate to put this, it's certainly not all on him. I don't know the full share, but this offense is still just incapable of scoring. You know, you had 7 points, which was set up by a Mason Posa fumble recovery. This offense is incapable of really putting anything together, and that's been almost irregardless of who the backup quarterback has been. It's been true whether it was Daniel O'Neal, Hunter Simmons, Carter Smith. Can this team and this offense in the games coming up put together multiple 70-yard drives if they had to? Can they score 20 if they had to? Because this defense, man, Indiana's a wagon. Indiana's a monster, and they're coming. Indiana's coming. Can you score 20? Can you put together a couple drives? I'm not sure. And if that's the case, your defense is going to get worn down against Indiana. Illinois is good too. You're going to have to put together some drives. Can Jeff Grimes engineer those? I think that's a massive question coming up. All right, let me hit on a couple other things that I think are just kind of interesting. The first is the weather aspect. You know, I've had several Washington fans, or I've had several people kind of say, yeah, the defense played great, but the weather really impacted it. I think that's true. I think the weather did impact it. Of course it did. Wind, snow, rain is always going to impact it. But you know what? I don't care. Washington plays in the Pacific Northwest. I don't want to hear any weather excuses. I'm sorry. It rains like 300 days a year there. If you're coming into Camp Randall and your excuse is we can't move the ball because of the weather, that's a bunch of malarkey, right? That's a bunch of horse manure. I'm sorry. No, this was a Badgers defense that just bullied your offense line. Mason Reiger was everywhere. Those linebackers were everywhere. This was not completely because of the weather. It wasn't. And I don't want to hear that excuse. The weather tampers down offense for sure. It does for both sides. But this was a Badgers defense. And it was a Badgers defense that was playing lights out, that was fired up, that was playing really hard. And I think everybody feeds off those two inside linebackers. And I kind of wonder what this defense would look like if those two inside linebackers had played the entire year or had gotten starts earlier in the year, which does make you question, could we have played those guys earlier, Coach Fick and Coach Tress? I don't know. I kind of think probably. And maybe this is another learning point, maybe another watershed moment where this staff has to kind of realize the younger dudes have to play. If they have the goods, it is what it is. You can't wait anymore in college football to put your most talented players out there. Maybe you never could, but players can leave now and you're under more pressure. You can't wait anymore. But, yeah, I don't want to hear the weather excuse. Did it matter? Yeah, of course it does. It's weather. Like, absolutely it matters. But Wisconsin outplayed them in the trenches. And those linebackers were everywhere. And you're from the Pacific Northwest. Like, if this was like a great team from a desert location coming up to play, I'd be like, okay, it makes sense. Dude, you play in Washington. I don't want to hear any weather excuses. That's a bunch of malarkey. Here's another question I got that I think is interesting. Do you think we're going to see a Carter Smith, Hunter Simmons package going forward? I actually kind of think we will. I think Carter's your guy. Carter Smith is your guy going forward. But in very obvious passing situations, like they did at the end of the first half, I think you might turn to Hunter Simmons to push the ball down the field because he is just a little more refined as a passer. He's got a little bigger arm. He's seen more. He's had more reps. He's seen more defenses thrown against him. I think you will probably still see potentially a little Hunter Simmons sprinkled in. But Carter Smith's the guy going forward. He's going to be the starter. He's the guy going forward. All right, we're going to take a second here. We get a bunch of your questions or thoughts next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second. Let me tell you about our amazing friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel's incredible. NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than our friends over at FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NBA. One of the things we love about FanDuel is the live in-game bets, and you can turn those live in-game bets into same-game parlays to continue spicing up your action. You have more fun. Even if your game is getting out of hand, tracking that fourth quarter comeback or that hot hand, whoever it is, you can stay in the action on FanDuel with those live in-game bets. Plus, you can still get your traditional parlays, futures, teasers, spreads, all available on FanDuel, an incredible partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. I love how easy it is to use, and I love how quick and simple the payouts are. When you hit, you're going to get paid. That's how it should be. That's what FanDuel's all about. Plus, they have an incredible offer right now over at FanDuel. They're giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's get your questions and thoughts in here. A bunch of questions, thoughts, topics off our YouTube channel I want to hit on here. The first one from JWG, sorry. Getting stuck in the airport is getting to me. Question for next year. What happens at linebacker when Allegro returns? 4-3? Question mark? Dude, I love this question because I think Allegro also needs to play. Allegro's a heart and soul dude. I think he's really, really good north and south, but you can't sit post and coop, right? So what do? By the way, I would also like to see Clayton get more reps. I want to see Cheeks continue to play. I kind of think, and I was having this discussion in a Twitter group we were in as well, I kind of think you move Allegro to the edge and you just let him be disruptive on the edge. Be north-south, set the edge, which he can do a really good job of, by the way. Allegro's a very physical linebacker, and he has the right mindset to take on blockers, to turn running backs back to the inside. He has the ability to rush the passer with power moves. He uses his hands pretty well. He can rock running backs if they're coming up to try to chuck him a little bit. I think you put Allegro outside, and then Cooper and Posa continue to do what they do. I like that matchup. By the way, again, there's no world where you're taking Posa or Cooper off the field, but Allegro has some I give a F to him too that you want on the field. He's the type of guy that you want between those sidelines roaming around in your defense because he plays physical and he really cares. I mean, the guy came out there with a broken arm to try to continue playing. I think you find a role for him. I think it is by shifting him outside. That's just my opinion. But I love the thought process there in the question from JWG. Craig F. Huge positive to have Carter play this game. He will get better and better. Big plus for 26. What a game for the recruits to witness. Yes. That's a big part of it too. You know, winning on game day isn't the biggest deal for recruits. We talked about that. And that's not me saying that. That's from me talking to people in the industry. And that's from me talking to recruits. But it helps. But it does help. And you saw pictures of some of the recruits that were there. And I sent the messages off to Ben Wenzel, who's coming on the show, or has been on the show, and that show's going to drop in a couple days. And he was just so excited about it. You saw pictures of recruits there with his shirts off. This was a big win, not just for players thinking about coming to Wisconsin, but for players who have committed to this program that are maybe wavering. It's nice to see the proof of concept. I think it really helps. It'll let everybody in the building take a bit of a breath. They can start to point to, look at what we just did to Washington. We just need to get healthy. Yeah, it's a good point. And also, Craig, good point with Carter Smith. Get him some experience. He's not going to burn his red shirt. Maybe if these last 4 games, now 3 games left, if he plays really well, that could be a springboard into next year. Really good comment all the way around there. Underwater Man says, nice win, but talk about bowl eligibility is crazy. I think Indiana will put that hope to rest. Yes, listen, Indiana's really tough. I think they're a 30-point favorite. But you can get to a bowl game with 5 wins. I'm just saying, not every team does, but I'm just saying that option's there. I would take it. I had somebody already ask me, if you were 5-7, would you take the bowl invite if offered to you? Yep. Are you sure? Yep. Really? Yep. You always take the bowl invite because it gives you more practice. It gives you more reps, especially for these younger players, and especially in a season like that. If you were to rally to get to the point where you could get bowl eligible, you absolutely continue riding that bowling train and knocking over the pins into the offseason. 100% you take that. So, yep. Will they get it? Still unlikely. We're going to be honest here. Bill Woj, who is a great dude, friend of the show, a veteran, hats off to him, man, says victory. Man, it feels awesome. Sometimes less is more. That's really well said, and I feel that. Kevin, Carter Smith reminds me of Mike Samuel, a gamer, finds a way to get the first downs. That's a good comp. Younger Badger fans, and Mike Samuel's at the beginning, the very early dawn of my Badger fandom, so I don't remember him as well as I should either. Certainly people younger than me probably don't have any recollection of that. But there is an element of playing quarterback that is about intangibles. That's about moxie. That's about leadership. That's about belief. That's about giving your team some hope. That's something Luke Fickell talked about with Carter Smith, right? He gives us hope. It's like a Jedi, a new hope. I don't know. I've been stuck at the airport for a while. But yeah, I think it's a good comment there. Pete P. Want to shout out Suggs. He got a lot of penetration today. Really solid most of the year. Suggs was good today. That whole defensive line was good today. They were harassing Williams. And there were occasional looping blitzes by Posa There was a corner blitz by, I think, Deone Hill. Like, Tressel brought some extra pressure at times, but a lot of times it was rushing 3 or 4, and this defensive line was just winning their one-on-ones. It was a really good performance by the defensive line. That's a good shout-out, Pete. Chad says, I don't think it's a blip. Talking about, is this a blip or a trend? The guys are playing hard. They have energy. My only question is, why did it take so long for the young guys to play? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Life in the fast lane says, D-line's the truth. Lane, Suggs, and Ben. No arguments. No arguments at all. Those dudes are balling out, man. Dex says, hold up, Ryan. Hold up, Ryan. Hold up. A+ for Tressel. They had one running back out with an injury. The main running back got injured during the game. So did their top receiver. Horrible weather to boot. Defense was very good, but we had a lot of help. If this isn't an A+, what is? I hear all those decks. I hear everything you're saying there. By the way, who injured those players? Like, Jonah Coleman didn't injure himself. Boston didn't injure himself. He got hit hard by a Badgers defense. But even that aside, if this isn't an A+, what is? If you held Washington to 3 points. Again, I'm not going to hold that 7 points against them. Defensively, you basically held them to 3 points. You were the unit on the field that won the game. Maybe it's an A. Maybe we can, split hairs here. But I don't know what more you could have wanted from this team. Does it need to be a shutout and like 3 turnovers? Because they got 2 turnovers as well, which set up to 7 points. I don't know, man. It's an A+ for me. I don't know what more you could have expected, but I do get your point that they did have a lot of help. Barbarian, on Culture Barbarian, great dude, says it's just great seeing Ryan and Rajiv happy. Let's go. I'm still not a FIG fan, but I love how this game turned out for the kids on the field and the recruits in the stands. That is well said on Culture Barbarian. I appreciate everybody for being here for the show, hanging out with me while I'm waiting an eternity in the airport. I'm going to go wander around after this, but on Wisconsin, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for making this your first listen every day. Thank you for being an everydayer. I really do appreciate you, and we'll definitely talk tomorrow.